I'm Dwayne Brown. Tonight on KPBS Evening Edition, two sides of the drought emergency. New evidence tonight California is not doing enough to save water, plus how San Diego may be leading the way with a new source for drinking water.
And should parents still be allowed to opt out of vaccinating kids for personal reasons? I'm Peggy Pico with why some pediatricians refuse to see non-vaccinated patients. Then, think of it as appetizers for your ears. Our preview of San Diego Symphony's Come As You Are, Pay As You Wish happy hour concert with a taste of the upcoming season.
Also, a plan to save 50 acres of prime natural habitat. Why this is just the tip of the iceberg of a major restoration campaign in the North County. KPBS Evening Edition starts right now. Hi, good evening. Thanks for joining us. They're demanding action on immigration. Some state lawmakers say Congress isn't doing enough, so they will. They're calling for protections on several levels, from health care to legal rights. KPBS Fronteras reporter Jean Guerrero explains what they're proposing.
Democrats in the legislature are introducing a package of 10 bills to increase protections for immigrants who entered the U.S. illegally. They say they want these bills to put pressure on the federal government to advance on immigration reform. Here's a list of some of them. The centerpiece of the California bills expands immigrants' access to state health care. Another bill allows immigrants who are the victims of crimes to apply for a special visa. Yet another protects them from job discrimination. Lawmakers say they want immigrants in the state to come out of the shadows. They say it will have a positive impact on the state economy. Republicans say they're concerned about the costs associated with the bills, particularly for health insurance. Assembly Speaker Tony Atkins of San Diego says the solution was never going to be simple.
If we thought this were easy, it would be done. D.C. would be doing something if it were easy. We intend to set the model. We intend to set the tone, as California always has.
President Obama's executive actions on immigration have been frozen in a district court since February, when a Texas judge filed an injunction. California was one of 14 states, in addition to the District of Columbia, that asked a federal appeals court to remove the injunction last month. Jean Guerrero, KPBS News.
Just days after a historic order on the state's drought emergency, we're now learning California is not doing enough to save water. New numbers show residents conserved less water in February than in any other month. Statewide reductions were just 3% last month. The grim news comes after the driest January on record. Statewide conservation has been about 10%. Last week, Governor Brown ordered a mandatory 25% cut in urban water use. Some experts say tapping into the Pacific Ocean may be part of California's answer to the drought. More than a dozen communities are looking at desalination to help supply water in the future. This process takes salt out of the seawater and converts it into drinking water. San Diego's billion-dollar desal plant is just a few months away from producing fresh drinking water. Critics say the process has its drawbacks.
It's expensive and it uses a lot of energy, and we should use the inexpensive methods that we already have right now and use those first before we go spending millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars on a desalination plant.
The plant in Carlsbad will be the largest in North America. Another plant may begin construction on the Monterey Peninsula next year. A proposal to build a new power plant in Carlsbad got a key endorsement this week. UT San Diego says the president of the State Public Utilities Commission recommended approval of the plant construction. It would replace the old Encina power plant, which is set for retirement in less than 3 years. The new 600-megawatt natural gas plant would supply power once generated by the San Onofre nuclear plant. San Diego City Council unanimously approved a $143,000 settlement with Helix Environmental Consulting. This after our media partner, iNewsSource, discovered potential conflicts of interest between one of the firm's former employees and environmental attorney Corey Briggs. iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino joins us with the latest on the settlement. Brad, for those who haven't been following this, tell us a bit about Helix and their relationship with the city.
So Helix is an environmental consulting company based in La Mesa. They contract with different cities and state and federal agencies to help them comply with environmental laws. Helix puts together EIRs, or environmental impact reports, and has done so for the city of San Diego on a number of projects over the years.
So why is Helix paying the city?
Well, our investigation into San Diego attorney Corey Briggs found his significant other, Saricia Cacciatore, and I say significant other because we don't know if they're married or not. We found that she worked for Helix for 8 years as a biologist and helped author many of those reports for cities, developers, and other government agencies. But during those 8 years, she also served as vice president of Briggs's law firm. We found that Briggs sued the city over at least one of those reports, and the city ended up paying Briggs's attorney's fees of $143,000. Now, experts we've consulted have said the relationship between Briggs and Cacciatore poses a huge conflict of interest.
And Brad, what do the city attorney and Helix have to say about all this?
They're saying they're happy to put it behind them. The city says it won't discriminate against hiring Helix in the future, and Helix says they've put in place new safeguards to prevent this sort of conflict from happening again.
And what about Briggs and Cacciatore?
We reached out to them for comment, but they have not responded.
iNewsSource reporter Brad Racino. A coastal property in North County saved for open space. There's a plan to preserve 50 acres of the Bariquitos Lagoon to help improve transit from La Jolla to Oceanside. Caltrans and the Regional Planning Agency met today to announce the $6 million purchase. The land is on the south side of the lagoon near La Costa. Planners say the land will be used as a natural habitat to mitigate for land used to widen Interstate 5 and the railway.
The 50 acres is part of a larger acquisition for the North Coast Corridor. Right now we have 250 acres that we've secured or acquired the property, and we're starting restoration. And that's the tip of the iceberg. We've got an additional 400 acres that we're planning to restore, and it's still in the planning process of it. That includes lagoons to the south and to the north of us.
A Caltrans project manager says they will spend $250 million on preserving wetlands and habitat up and down the coast.
Each lagoon has different needs and different opportunities, and some lagoons benefit from restoration. Other lagoons, such as this, had development encroaching on them and had previously restored. So the question is, how do you keep that healthy lagoon that you've already invested in? So we've been able to tailor it. So each one brings different value.
The money comes from the half-cent sales tax approved by voters in 2004. A controversial bill to ban all personal belief exemptions for childhood vaccinations faces its first test in the state capitol tomorrow. Peggy Pico has more on the issue in San Diego.
SB 277 would still allow medical exemptions, but backers of the bill say most of California's childhood exemptions aren't for medical reasons. Instead, they say parents opt out of vaccination requirements for personal beliefs. Here with a perspective from the medical community is my guest speaker of the California Medical Association House of Delegates and past president of the San Diego County Medical Society, Dr. Ted Mazur. And Dr. Mazur, do you support this bill?
Absolutely. California Medical Association, a big coalition of other physicians and non-physician groups that are looking out for the community of California, the individuals and the community at large, support this strongly.
What are some of the reasons that parents have told you as to why they don't want to vaccinate their children?
Well, for the most part, they're misinformed. They're educated from old information that's been debunked, things like the causation of autism being vaccination, which we know is not true. It's a fear, and it's an unfounded fear. There are other people who may have some real legitimate reasons about medical concerns, and that can be discussed with the doctors. There are very few medical contraindications, medical reasons not to get vaccinated.
Fear of getting autism or other things, well, that's not one of them.
No, absolutely not. All of the things that people have put in the lay press and that have blogged all over the place about vaccination, simply untrue. Very well studied, very well understood. The bottom line is the risk of getting an adverse, a bad reaction from the vaccination is infinitely smaller than the risk of having a bad outcome from getting the infection that you're being vaccinated against.
Sure. What do you tell parents who come in, though, with those unfounded concerns?
Well, we have to have a conversation that says, what is your concern, what's your worry, and give them the facts, steer them in the direction of factual information. For the most part, when people sit back and they go risk versus benefit, they understand, much like we would in deciding on an operation or taking a drug for an illness. You understand not everything's 100% safe, but your outcome is going to be better personally with that vaccination, the child's outcome, and there's a community commitment here as well. A lot of things we do in California, in the nation, under law, is to protect a community at large, not just ourselves.
Sure. Now, some pediatricians, I understand, are refusing to see non-vaccinated children. Why do you think the doctors, or some of these doctors, are choosing to do that? You know,
for the most part, they're doing it because they do not want the non-vaccinated child to come into their waiting room and into their office where they have sick children that they're tending to. And they feel that this is an unnecessary risk that the child's parent is putting the child at and their other patients. In other situations, it's simply at some point a doctor says, here's my medical advice. If you don't have a really good rationale for not following my advice, I don't think we have that physician-patient relationship anymore, and you need to find somebody else who you can work with.
So it's ethically okay for a doctor to refuse a patient?
Well, it's ethically okay for a doctor to say we don't have the relationship, and since I find that you're not going to be willing to follow my advice, I don't think we can continue.
About 10% of kindergartners in California are not vaccinated. What's the public health risk with that sort of percentage?
You need about a 95% vaccination rate to get what we call herd immunity. That's the protection in the community. When you get below 95%, you are now subjecting the public at large and the children and the adults in that classroom to the risk of an infection for which they may not have had a proper vaccination, or the vaccination may not have been effective, and the children who are there with good medical reasons not to have had the vaccination. You're subjecting them unnecessarily to a risk of exposure. In the community at large, you've got babies who are too young to be vaccinated. They're being exposed unnecessarily by people who are not vaccinated.
Now, some parents say this is a civil liberties issue or a personal freedom issue. Don't they have the right to refuse medical intervention and medical treatment?
Yeah, nobody is going to take their child away from them and stick a needle in their arm. That is not what this bill is about. This bill says if you want to enroll your child in a school, public or private, unless there is a good medical contraindication to getting the vaccine, the child must be vaccinated or can't enroll. You want to homeschool your child, you're not subjecting the community at large in that school that the child otherwise would have gone to. That's still your right. Whether that's the right decision medically, another discussion. But nobody is stealing away the rights for them to make a decision. It's just what they're going to do with their child when they say no.
Now, similar measures to ban personal belief exemptions have failed in Washington and Oregon. Will the State Medical Society lobby in favor of this SB 277 bill?
Absolutely. We're behind this bill. This is a very important bill, and I think it's important for people to understand this is not about taking away rights, not about telling you how to live. It's about protecting the child and protecting the community at large.
All right, Dr. Ted Mazur, thanks so much for the update.
You bet.
San Diego City Councilman Todd Gloria announced today he'll run for the State Assembly next year to replace Speaker Tony Atkins, who can't run for re-election because of term limits. Gloria represents the city's 3rd district, which includes downtown San Diego, Balboa Park, and its surrounding communities. His term ends next year. This is when he hopes he'll be Assemblyman Gloria, representing the 78th district that stretches from Solana Beach to the border.
And my priority is always on trying to help more families to make ends meet. And whether it was championing an increase in the minimum wage, pushing forward with transportation options to allow more people to get from A to B in whatever way they want, protecting our environment, these are the issues I'll champion in Sacramento if given the opportunity.
Others who have said they're running for Atkins' seat are Democrat Ed Harris and Republican Kevin Melton. The Rady family has opened its wallet, once again giving $100 million to the UC San Diego Rady School of Management. School officials describe the gift from Evelyn and Ernest Rady as transformational. Holding back tears, Ernest Rady says he's the one that's grateful for what the school gives back to him.
I usually try and tell a joke, but I thought the joke really is not appropriate to today's gathering. What's appropriate for me in today's gathering is to express my gratitude to the school. Now I'm going to choke up. To Dean Sullivan, to all the community.
Really, we wouldn't be here today. 10 years ago, the Radys donated $30 million in seed funding to help found the business school. Five North County cities have launched a campaign called Innovate 78 to collectively promote the 78 corridor as a magnet for jobs and investment. The area is home to more than 600,000 people and 20,000 businesses. The message they want to convey is North County is a great place to live, work, and build a company, whether it's manufacturing, biotech, craft beer, or educational institutions.
Because what we found out is businesses are attracted to talent. If the talent's in a location like Sorrento Valley or even Silicon Valley, that's where the business is located. If we can make this also a talent corridor, then the businesses will follow.
The 5 cities include Carlsbad, Escondido, Oceanside, San Marcos, and Vista. They've been working together for a couple of years on their economic development plan. A new website will serve as a resource for the cities. You can find it at Innovate78.com. The next step in keeping the bolts in San Diego got the green light from city and county leaders. The price tag adds up to $500,000. County supervisors and city council members voted on a plan today that would have them sharing the costs for a team of legal experts. The idea is to have them spell out the details of what can be done to build a new home for the team. A city-appointed task force recommends building a new stadium over the Q. What would you save from the budget chopping block? San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer's budget proposal will be released next week. In this year's budget games, KPBS reporter Claire Trageser asked folks from across the city what they want to see in the budget.
We stopped people in different places across the city and asked them what they wish the city would spend more or less money on. San Diegans had lots of ideas for where the city should increase spending, and no one had suggestions for where the city should cut back.
My name is Monique Lopez, and what I'd like to see more in this upcoming budget is biking and walking infrastructure projects, specifically in communities such as City Heights, where I'm at right now, Logan Heights, Sherman Heights, Barrio Logan, and all these great communities that are overburdened from air pollution and are at highest risk of being hit by a car. If you live in one of these communities, you're 10 times more likely to be hit by a car just walking around. So we need to see infrastructure such as biking and walking in these communities first.
I'd like more streetlights. There's not a lot, especially on the street I live. You know, my girlfriend's walking at night and walking the dog, and it just makes me feel better if there are a few more streetlights on our street and the surrounding area.
Well, I think one of the best things about San Diego is obviously outdoor life, and so I would love to see San Diego spend more money on its public spaces, parks. I would also love to see, I feel like there are a lot of areas of the city that just kind of need to be cleaned up, like the trash picked up more regularly, especially like the public trash cans. I don't know, a lot of times you see trash cans overflowing, and you know, I just think that would beautify the whole city.
I need the city to spend more money on the improvement of roads and also the security of the parks.
Our beaches and keeping the Chargers in San Diego. Build the stadium, keep them here. We'll never share a stadium with the LA Raiders or the Oakland Raiders. Chargers are supposed to be in San Diego, and that's all I gotta say about that.
It's not likely the next budget will include funding for a football stadium, but if it did, there'd need to be some spending adjustments. San Diego prides itself on a balanced budget, but its residents also have a lot of wants and needs. That means for each item the city adds to its budget, it has to find something to cut. For example, say you want to increase library hours. It will cost you $3.1 million to increase the central library hours from 52 to 58 hours a week and increase branch library hours from 48 to 56 hours a week. So now you have to find $3.1 million to cut. You could end the city's convention center subsidy. Each year, the city pays $3.4 million to the Tourism Authority to fund convention center repairs. Stop that, and you can pay for your library hours. Or say you want to clean up the smelly bird guano at La Jolla Cove. That'll cost about $250,000 a year. Now you need to add money to your budget to offset that cost. You could bring back red light cameras, a program that used to ticket drivers for running red lights. Those cameras brought in about $200,000 a year. If you want to fix all the city's sidewalks, it'll cost you about $5 million. Adding bike lanes runs about $1 million. Adding adding more streetlights costs another $1 million. To pay for all of these, you could increase parking tickets by $10, which will earn you $4 million a year, and stop city employees from being able to cash in on their unused vacation time. That'll cut $3 million from the budget. KPBS has designed a game to let you make your own budget decisions. To play, go to kpbs.org/budget.
Well, on the next news hour, how one San Diego elementary school copes 4 years after a gunman opened fire on its playground. That's Tuesday on the PBS NewsHour.
Music to our ears, the San Diego Symphony is tempting new music fans with an unusual concert this week. Peggy Pico has more.
The 1-hour Come As You Are, Pay As You Wish happy hour concert called Tastings will highlight musical score samples for San Diego Symphony's 2015-16 season. The Symphony's new CEO, Martha Gilmer, and Valentin Marchev, principal bassoonist with the San Diego Symphony, joined me with a preview. And Martha, last year, one of the Symphony concerts included Megadeth's heavy metal guitarist Dave Mustaine. Let's listen.
Great.
So that might have surprised a few people. What's in store for the concerts lined up for this season?
Well, what I love about that clip is it shows that music belongs to all of us. And Dave Mustaine has a deep appreciation for an orchestra and for music that precedes us by centuries and yet brings something new to it. And I think that's what we try to do in all of our programs in the 15-16 season and beyond. This year we're doing collaborations with groups like John Malashak's dance company. We're working with a festival based on an instrument, the piano, and Ben Folds is part of that, and of course Yahya Ling with his wife and Horacio Gutierrez. We will be doing the Mozart Triple Concerto. So it's about surprises. It's about in new ways of looking at things, even if they're standard repertoire.
But you are offering a preview of sorts at this happy hour listening event Thursday night. Tell us more. How's that going to work?
Well, people always say, what do I wear if I come to the orchestra? What can I expect? And the best way to answer that is to say, come on in. Don't worry what you wear. Don't worry what you pay what you feel like, but this is an opportunity to have small bites of next year's season program.
And Valentin, how important is it for musicians like yourself and the symphony to try new things like this?
We very much enjoy exploring new music and try to reach new audience in the meantime, so that actually is something we look forward to very much.
And Martha, the symphony will be getting a new conductor in about 2 years, right, to replace Maestro Yaya Ying. What's the process for replacing him?
Well, orchestra, it's all what magic happens on the stage with the musicians, between the musicians and their leader. And so we'll have 8 new conductors next year as guest conductors. Some of them will maybe want to remain as guest conductors, but we'll see when the magic happens of someone that really we want a long-term relationship with and they want with us.
Well, it leads me to ask, are some of these guest conductors coming in, or is it sort of an audition?
I think it's more of an exploration. I think it's more about having an opportunity to make music together, and you know, it's always about innovation. These musicians innovate every single time they sit on that stage, and so having an opportunity to work together with new people, we'll see what happens.
What's it like, Valentin, to work with new conductors, or guest conductors, I should say?
It's very exciting. We communicate with new personalities, how they think of music and how we play it together, and definitely brings the level of the orchestra on a much higher stage of performance, especially.
Is there a particular conductor you're looking forward to working with most?
I look forward to all of them. I very much enjoyed playing with Edo Dovart this past season, so I would be looking forward to play with him again, yes.
All right. And Martha, the symphony is going to be part of this, as you mentioned, this Upright Grand Piano Festival, which will feature Yaya Ling, correct? Absolutely. So tell us more about it. Where is it going to be? What's it going to be like?
Well, much of it takes place at the Jacobs Music Center as part of our Jacobs Masterworks, but there are also jazz concerts, there'll be community events, there'll be pianos in public spaces, so you'll walk into the library and see a grand piano asking you to sit down and play. That is the spirit of this, and we really want people to have a lot of fun. We want you to know that there's a festival going on no matter where you are in San Diego.
Well, it sounds exciting. San Diego Symphony's Martha Gilmer and Valentin Machav, thank you so much. And I want to let folks know the San Diego Symphony's Come As You Are tasting concert is this Thursday night at 7:30 at the Copley Symphony Hall in downtown San Diego. For more information, go to kpbs.org.
They may be zipping along the bike lanes on four wheels. A bill to allow electric skateboards in these lanes is gaining speed in Sacramento. The measure would regulate motorized skateboards like bicycles. A Modesto assemblywoman is backing it. Republican Kristen Olson says this would support local businesses who make the boards. She also rides them. Olson posted this photo on Twitter. The bill faces its first committee vote next week. We may see some showers in San Diego tonight. It should clear out by tomorrow, though. 60s along the beaches. A mix of sun and clouds for the inland valleys with 60s and 70s. High winds in the mountain areas with 50s and 60s. Back into the 80s in the desert. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great night.